Hey, welcome back Lying Golf Academy members and guests, and today we have another special guest, Coach Bethany. Coach Bethany has just moved to Arizona, but we are still helping each other out, and I'm helping her with her golf swing and her objectives to try and play tour golf within the next few years. So we are doing a reintroduction of her old motion, and one of the reasons I bring this up is if you have videos of when you were hitting the ball good, make sure you keep them for reference, because as you get older your body will change, but at least you can have something that you have access to where you were doing a good job and you can compare yourself to what you were doing back then and notice some changes. And we do notice some changes with her current swing versus where she used to swing. Now this lady is no joke. She can hit the ball very far, she can score very low, got a full ride scholarship in college and sidelined with a wrist injury, but we are trying to work our way back. Stick with me today and watch her old motion and her new motion. Let's talk about why she's having these changes, and Coach Bethany will probably be watching this. And Coach, this one is for you. Thank you for all the service you've done, and you are one of the best I've ever come across when it comes to dealing with people, teaching people, and also playing golf. And if you do like this type of content, make sure you hit that like, share, subscribe, as we do share profits from this channel and our development academies across Southern California, introducing golf to low-income children in Cape Flats, South Africa. And we do have channel memberships starting at 99 cents. That money goes straight to those children, and thank you for those on the screen here who have already done so. Join the party on our march to 3,000 subscribers. And we will send periodic updates of Coach Bethany and also Coach Bryce from last video, so if you want to follow along in their journey, go ahead and subscribe to us. But enough of that hogwash, let's take a look at the great Coach Bethany. Okay, here we have Bethany down the line. Now, just some backstory while I put up these lines. The video on the left-hand side, Bethany sent this to me a few days ago as we were looking at her swing. Nothing beats Barney Purple, right? And in this swing, this is, keep in mind, on the left side of the screen, here we have somebody that plays every single day, hits thousands of golf balls a week. The swing on the right side, we don't have much time to dedicate to this game as we would like, and as a result we start suffering and we start making adjustments. Also keep in mind, some years are different between these two videos. I'm going to go on a limb here and say it's probably 5-6 years difference, and things change. Our body does change even when you're in your 20s into your 30s and 40s. It changes over time, but we can also see some things that we are doing differently, setups a little differently, but most notably is the rotation or lack thereof on the right side of the screen. And this is what I wanted to show Bethany, so I'm glad you guys are along for the ride. Let's get started. And yes, these views are slightly different than each other and obviously different heights. I think Coach Bethany was recording herself, where the one on the left side, somebody else was recording her, so we get that for all those commenters down there. But this is basically just to see some cause and effect on both swings and start to look at some differences, because you can definitely see some differences. Overall setup, let's take a look at the setup and let's check that setup position. Let's go from the arches of the heels straight up to the sky versus the arches of the heels straight up to the sky, and we can see that we're sitting slightly further back on this new setup. Now, does she adjust it? Let's take a look. No, she doesn't adjust it. Okay, so number one, Bethany, is you got to get your weighting more towards your toes so you can get where your spine angle meets on the lower plane line to cross each other. Now, this could also be a camera angle, but I guarantee you, if we moved your old camera angle on this left side to where it was today on the right side, you would definitely see those two lines crossing where the centerness of your center is. And this is very important, because if you don't keep your center over your arches of your heels during your swing, you're going to try and find that center or fight that center and throw things away. So it could be already seeing some cause and effect with that centeredness, and we're going to erase, let's keep that centeredness up there to see what happens. Now let's just slowly go on the backswing, and we can see immediately a difference here. The one on the left side, we can see those hands and arms staying below that plane line slightly. The one on the right side, we can see that immediate lift. Now we'll have to see the front face-on view for the cause of this lifting, but we'll take a look at it from this angle. But a lot of this has to do with that rotation. So sometimes when we rotate, we could be pushing our hip out as we rotate, and we can see that the hips definitely rotate quicker on the left side of the screen. We can see the hips pulling back this way initially, and as you do that, your arms can have enough space and clearance to allow them to go with the turn. And if we go all the way to the top of the swing here, let's pause it right about there. Okay, so one's slightly in the transition, one's not. We couldn't really time these up perfectly. Let's, for all purposes, do a quick check on that shoulder tilt and see how close we are to each other. And I'm going to try my best to find the shoulders. There. Now keep in mind, this is just eyeballing it, okay? So we can see a loss of shoulder tilt. One's 44, one's 36. But let's just actually go down to the start of the swing and make sure that they are truly rotating around the spine. So we take a look at number 1 is there's a slight loss of tilt. Number 2, there is a slight loss of tilt. So you're still losing the same amount of tilt, which is good, which means your body hasn't really changed much, but the tilting is an issue because if you only get 36 degrees of tilt at the top of your swing, you're not truly rotating around your spine angle as much as you would like, which will also decrease your tilt at impact, which causes you to cover the golf ball. So your shoulders are rolling around your spine instead of tilting. Now, if we go straight down to impact, let me see if I can do this magic move right here. 1, 2, 3, bam, there it is. Now let's redraw the shoulder tilting and we can see definitely the covering on the right side is a little bit more and shoulder tilting. Let's go past impact. Let's go one more frame. All right, so there's the shoulder tilt increase. One on the left side, and we have 17 degrees of increase, and the one on the right side, we have 17 degrees of increase. So look at this. So you can see how the body schematics of her, it's still ingrained that the same tilting is happening, except one is not tilted enough at the start, and that could be with you sitting back in your heels. So if you can get your body more over your toes and feel like your arches are underneath your hips, this will definitely help you start to rock or tilt your shoulders around your spine axis. So you're gonna have to forgive all these blue arrow lines over there. I'm trying to erase them, but I don't want to erase all the lines. So for some reason, it just kicked over wrong. But let's check this angle here while we have it. What's going on with this? See, it's not me. All right, so there's the one angle. So we have 53 degrees, and this is another eyeball angle, and we have 5 degrees. So you can already see the tilting is not quite as much. So if you could pull those feet back further underneath your hips, so basically you would like to have, for you Bethany, you want to have your arches underneath the joint there, which will give you some spacing to tilt down, because I suspect your body feels like it doesn't have the spacing, so you can't increase your tilt or even start more tilted. So all right, so it happened. I hit delete and all the lines went away. So I had to redraw the lines, but we're going to go straight to the top of the swing. I already see that tilting and turning issue, so more turn with the hips and actually tilting your right shoulder going down. But watch this top of the swing here. We can see the different arm positions. I mean, that's a huge difference. Hands are nice and high here, hands are nice and low. Which one works for you depends on how you reroute things and how your body works. And let's do a quick triangle check in red. And this triangle is extremely shallow, which is so good for you because you can drop it in that slot pretty quickly. You can see if we can reconnect this as best we can. That triangle is pointing at your golf ball basically, and that's pretty impressive. Now if we take a look at this triangle, we can see that this triangle is pointing down on your plane, which is typical, and your hands aren't really that high. On the left side, you can see your arms and hands are lower just because you've taken the club much lower. You can see the amount of rotation in your hips here versus these hips are still pretty stuck. They're not opening up. And your first move down is, let's take a look at that one on the left side. It stays below your plane. Below your plane basically means this side of the triangle. Above the plane, you're in trouble up there. But when you have it so flat like you do, it's hard to come above the plane. Where this one on the right side, it's going to be very hard for you to drop your hands down while you wait to turn. So your first move is you are getting your hands on the wrong side of that triangle. And when you do that, now your shaft is going to be a little bit steeper and you're going to run into some contact issues. You're going to hit heavy, you're going to block it, you're going to pull it, you're going to do a lot of things from there, or you can hit it perfectly and time things up. If we can go down a little further, at this point, watch your hands on the right side of the screen here. Your hands never really touch that lower plane line till right at impact. The one on the left side, your hands are touching that lower plane. Now I know again it's the camera angle, but we're going to get the idea of this while you're still holding your wrist hinge, and from this point on we drive and we turn. So this is where I see a huge amount of distance increase on the left side versus the right side. Yes, you can still hit it pretty good, but that contact, you see that one was a little bit heavy. And the escape pattern, we can see that the hands are doing a good job of keeping that club on plane. We'll look at the one on the left side, they finish much higher. Now, believe it or not, this is very Hogan-esque. If you look at Hogan's swing, he starts with that club shallow from this point and releases nice and high as he extends through impact position. Where the one on the right side, you are trying to release nice and high, but because momentum took you right of your target with your hands, you can see how much lower they finished. There's your exit path versus here's your exit path. And again, I know that it's a camera angle, but it's definitely going to not be this far off if they were exactly exactly the same camera angle. So in a nutshell, from this point of view, you definitely want to get your feet more underneath your hip sockets, feel like you can tilt a little bit more initially, and turn your hips. So that turning of the hips, let the hands follow the turn while you increase your tilting. And that's going to really adjust things. But let's take a look at the top of the swing one more time, because one more thing I want to mention here is the length of your arms. So in both positions, we're going to try and marry them up. Right about here is about as good as we can get. So look how far these arms are going up and back behind you versus this one. They are more connected out in front of your chest. So if we can, that's not the right thing. Let's get a correct line. So if we can, let's do this in Barney Purple. So if we can get the triangle, see how the hands are still out in front of that triangle here. So the hands are still pretty connected to that center, where this one, we can see your right arm is in that triangle, but the left arm pulled back and is kind of disconnecting off that triangle. So it's a little bit more compensatory, and the hands and arms have to reconnect at some point. But let's go face on, because maybe that might open up another can of worms or the answer to everything. Okay, so the one on the right, you can see this is a practice swing. There's no golf ball involved, so I know this isn't going to give us the exact impact position, because once that golf ball comes down there, you are now dealing with a lion that you're trying to tame, and sometimes we just cannot tame that lion. So let's take a look at some things that we can see to help us understand some cause and effect. Okay, so what I've done here is I've joined the shoulder tilt together and showed you where 90 degrees is from that center, and you can see some differences already. Based on the tilting, we can see how that's going to throw off the ball position related to your tilting. It's also going to start messing with your weight distribution, and we can see that there's a little bit more weight on her left side versus the old move. It's slightly more centered. This could also affect the fact that she can't turn as much because more of the weight's on that left side. It could also affect the distribution of the weighting and also that rotation with the hips. But again, it could also be slightly getting older and maybe not keeping up with the repetition of hitting golf balls too. And let's just help us out here. Let's put a ball down there. Even though this is imaginary swing, we can see the relationship of that ball. As we get to the top of the swing, let's kind of reconnect what's going on here. They're both in their spine angle, which was set up by the tilt. That spine angle on the left side matches her tilting pretty well. The spine angle on the right side matches her tilting pretty well. So we can see that whatever angle you set your shoulder tilt at, if you can go ahead and rotate around your spine, you will be in that position. But what is this causing for her? Well, let's take a look. Let's look at the red line right where her left shoulder is down to the golf ball, and the left shoulder over here. We can see that we are definitely more behind the golf ball. When you are behind the golf ball, plus you set up with an increased tilt, almost like a driver, we can see a couple things happening here. Weight distribution is going to be stuck on her left side, but most importantly is look at the amount of rotation. So we're definitely suffering on rotation. So we need to get those hips to rotate slightly more to help the shoulders rotate, because we can see if we draw a line, let's do this one now in our favorite Barney Purple, we can see both shoulders on the left side are past that 90-degree mark, where both shoulders on the right side are just shy of that 90-degree mark. But if you take a look at where the club is, this club doesn't get close to parallel at all. This one gets much closer to parallel. So what does that tell me? Is the lack of body turn. Now she is making up for that lack of body turn by getting the hands and arms a little bit more involved, and therefore disconnecting to the center of her triangle, which is the chest, where everything runs right in the center. So one thing causes the other. The lack of the hip turn, now all of a sudden we have to make up for the lack of the hip turn, plus that setup might have caused some rotation issues. Now your hands and arms go back further to get that club what seems to be in the same position. But now you have invited a little bit of chaos in that split second that we're trying to hit the golf ball. And to help bring this home, let's draw this one in. What color have we used? Orange. Let's bring this out in orange. So we're going to try and go right from the middle of the chest straight out, and we can see that those hands are connected. Middle of the chest here with that lack of rotation, straight out, we can see how much the hands have disconnected. So they've moved whatever degrees that is, they've moved out and back behind her. Now when she comes on through, she's going to carry that disconnection, and she either has to reroute those hands to keep up with the centeredness. But take a look as we get down to impact, we can see now we're not carrying some weight distribution. Look how much of the upper body is falling behind. Let me clear these lines up. So if we look here, let's draw the spine angle line. We can see the one on the left side versus the one on the right side. Because of that tilting at the start of the swing, it's going to affect the weight transfer. So now she can't really get her weighting going upper body over the golf ball this one is moving more towards the golf ball, and as a result you start tipping back. We can see the increase of shoulder tilt here, not so much increase here, and that changes your attack angle. So this one, she has to release that club sooner, because if she doesn't, she's going to strike the ground. With this one, she can hold on to that angle and drive through the golf ball. And as we strike the golf ball, you can see great players still try and get in that same impact position, but look at the difference of the hand position. Look at the hip rotation, look at the weight distribution. They're ahead of her hands. Here, her hands have caught up to it because of that tilting. They still find a way to reconnect to that center tilt, right? So there's a center tilt. She stayed very well in that center tilt, and once she releases it, we're going to see that follow through. Look at the hand release as well. So we see a little bit more hand manipulation past the golf ball, where this shaft is sticking left of the target. This one is already crossed over right of the target. And as we come on through, we can see a little bit of difference here, but this is past impact. We've hit the golf ball. We found our way to the target. So you can see the great player is still in her. She's just a little bit stuck because of a setup flaw. So Bethany, if you're looking at me, reach out to me, but you get the gist of it. And this will help you guys and girls watching this at home, because you have to keep old videos of yourself so you can go back and look and say, okay, is this a physical problem? Am I just getting so old that I can't turn anymore? If so, go see a therapist, go help yourself out, get some rotation. Or is this a mental problem because it's a setup issue and I can change that setup issue and still get back to my old position? So I hope that helps you guys. Bethany, hope that helps you. If it confused you, let me know, text me, we'll figure it out. But I hope you guys enjoyed that. Don't forget to support us if you can. If you do like this type of content, hit that like, share, subscribe, and even drop a comment if you do like it. But I'll see you guys next time. Fairways and greens.